Assalamu alaikum students. Before going to our educational topic, please subscribe my channel Muntzir Mehdi Science TV on YouTube. Press the like button and share this lecture to your friends and classmates who have no access to it to add in their science education. And those students that are preparing privately can benefit from our channel very effectively. Let's come back to our topic, that is classification of lipids. Dear students, this is the second part of previous video lecture. In the first part, I have defined the definition of lipids. That what are lipids along with fats, fatty acids, glycerol and esters concept. Students, if you have watched that video till now, then I can say you with a definite sure that you can write the definition of lipids. That students, lipids are organic compounds, such organic compounds which are not soluble in polar water, polar solvents, but students are soluble in only non-polar solvents like ether, alcohol, chloroform and benzene. Students, these non-polar solvents are helpful in the solubility of lipids which are non-polar organic compounds. But students, these compounds cannot be soluble in polar water, polar solvents. Another important point about lipids was that lipids are associated to fatty acids. Students, what are fatty acids? Let's see. Dear students, fatty acids are such organic compounds which have a functional group, a specific functional group, that is C double bond O OH, a carboxylic group at the one side, and students, at the other side fatty acids have a side chain. This side chain has carbon number from 4 to 28 or 30. Students, this side chain is a hydrocarbon chain that is simply denoted by R. This R is mainly written to represent a specific general structure of a specific compound. So students, mainly a fatty acid has two important parts. First one is carboxylic group, that is C double bond O OH, and second is a side chain, a hydrocarbon chain with 4 carbon atoms to 28 or 30 carbon atoms. Dear students, an important point about fatty acids is that even number of carbon atoms are present. Students, odd not, but even number of carbon atoms are present, like 4 carbon atoms, 6, 8, 10 and 12 and so on. So this is our a fatty acid with two parts, the carboxylic group and the side chain. The simplest structure of a fatty acid, students, is RC double bond O OH, which is also the general structure of a fatty acid. Students, well known examples of fatty acids are palmitic acid with carbons. How many number of carbons? This has been described in the first part. And stearic acid with carbons. How many number of carbons? This has also been mentioned in the first part. Students, the differences between the saturated and unsaturated fatty acids have also been mentioned in the first part, which you can watch if you want. Dear students, in addition to these concepts about esters, I have also mentioned in that first video lecture that esters are a family of compounds. Students, esters are not a single compound but a family of compounds that are formed by the combo of an alcohol OH group compound with an acidic group compound, that is COOH. So when an acid possessing COOH group compound combines with an alcohol possessing OH group, then we will get an ester. We will obtain an ester whose of general structure is RC double bond O OR. So students, this is the general formula of an ester. Dear students, whole of this is a short view of previous video lecture. First part, whose of name is lipids. Students, now we will start today's main topic, classification of lipids. Students, lipids has different classes like fats, triglycerides, phospholipids, steroids, sterols, cholesterols, waxes, terpenes and terpenoids like different classes. Now we shall understand all of these classes one by one. Students, about fats and fatty acids, I have explained in front of you in the previous video lecture. So students, next and firstly, we start with triglycerides by understanding triglycerides. That what are triglycerides? Students, before understanding triglycerides, students, first we understand monoglyceride and diglyceride. Then we will understand triglyceride automatically because mono 1, di 2 and tri represents three things. So students, starting from monoglyceride, when one fatty acid molecule combines with one glycerol molecule. Now you are thinking that what is glycerol? Students, as we have already discussed in the previous video lecture that glycerol is a 3 carbons alcohol. What is glycerol? Glycerol is a specific type of alcohol that has 3 carbons, 1 to 3 carbons. With every carbon, students, every carbon attached with a hydroxyl group like this. Next, students, to stabilize the valency of every carbon, two hydrogens are joined here, two hydrogens here, but only one hydrogen joins here. So when students, one fatty acid joins with this one glycerol alcohol, one fatty acid plus one glycerol, then it will be converted into monoglyceride. Students, next is diglyceride. When two fatty acids join with one glycerol, then it will be diglyceride. Next, students, in triglyceride, how many fatty acids will join be? Guess. As tri means yes 3, then guess. Yes, students, you are right. When three fatty acid molecules, students, when three fatty acid molecules joins with one glycerol, students, as glycerol is always taken one, then we will get a triglyceride. Three fatty acid molecule plus one glycerol molecule, then we will obtain a triglyceride. Students, by this simple way, we have known that in a triglyceride, three fatty acid molecules join with only one glycerol molecule. That is a very simple way to know about triglyceride. Students, all these monoglyceride, diglyceride and triglyceride, three are the lipids type, not the triglycerides type. And students, triglycerides are also known by the name of acylglycerol or triacylglycerol. Dear students, triglycerides are the natural fats or natural lipids. Students, from here we can also know that the glycerol portion of every triglyceride is same. But students, but by adding 1, 2 or 3 fatty acids, every glyceride is different. Likewise, students, there are different types of fatty acids. So there are a large number of triglycerides, that is a fat, a lipid type. Next, students, we understand the triglycerides or triacylglycerol structural wise. Suppose, students, it is our glycerol in which three carbons are joined to three hydroxyl groups. First here, second here and third hydroxyl group is joined here. Students, to stabilize the valency of every carbon, two hydrogens are combined here, one here and two hydrogens are again joined here. Dear students, to get a triglyceride, this one glycerol alcohol is combined with three fatty acids molecules. Students, how we can mention it, this situation in structural form? How? Let's see. Dear students, although fatty acids are of long-chained hydrocarbon compounds which we can't mention on a whiteboard. So students, we can write the shortcut form of fatty acids. How? Let's see. Hydroxyl group, carboxylic group, C double bond O. Here R, which represents simple fatty acid. But students, if you want to write hydrocarbon chain only, then you can write. Students, if you want to simplify the hydrocarbon chain, then you may write CH3 short bracket open, CH2 short bracket close. Students, please consider this whiteboard, because students, this is a very important method, a very important mechanism to write the short form of a fatty acid. So put your attention to this mobile whiteboard. So by explaining the short form of a fatty acid, we may write CH3 brackets CH2. Students, if the number of carbons is 18, then C double bond O OH. One carbon comes here in the form of COOH. Second in the form of CH3, and students, remaining 16 carbons will be shown here outside the brackets of CH2. So students, 16 number will be written here, which represents that here are 16 number of CH2. By writing all CH2, students, this fatty acid will become as. But in short form, we write CH3 brackets open, CH2 bracket close, C double bond O OH. One carbon, second carbon, and remaining carbon numbers, whatever its number will be, students, will be displayed here. 4, 6, 8, 10, 20, 24, whatever it will be. Students, let's come back to R, this fatty acid. If you want to write R here, then you can write R here. But students, if you want to write hydrocarbon chain, then you may write it as CH3 CH2 brackets carbon number, whatever it will be, 4, 6, 12, 20, 26, 28, or 30. Students, after that, second fatty acid, CH3 bracket CH2 and number of remaining carbons, and C double bond O OH. Next, third fatty acid will be written here. Students, now these are our three fatty acids, and it is our one glycerol. What is glycerol? Students, about glycerol, we have already discussed that glycerol is a 3 carbons alcohol. So when one glycerol, students, combines with 3 fatty acid molecules, then we will get gas. Students, gas, think about it. Think, students, think. Not new, then I tell you. But students, before its answer, first we see the joining of glycerol with 3 fatty acids. That how can 3 fatty acids join with one glycerol molecule? Dear students, the joining of one glycerol molecule to these 3 fatty acid molecules is a very crucial, is a very important mechanism. So you must put your attention to this mobile whiteboard. Because students, once you are understood this mechanism, then you will easily join the glycerol with these 3 fatty acids. Students, their joining, with joining, the joining of one glycerol and 3 fatty acid molecules happen by the release of a hydroxyl group from the alcohol, that is a glycerol, and H ion from the acid, that is a fatty acid. So students, glycerol, that is a type of an alcohol. This ol is a symbol that glycerol is an alcohol. So glycerol removes out this hydroxyl group along with this H ion of fatty acid, hydrogen of fatty acid. Students, when whole hydroxyl group is removed out, then it also takes away its bond with it. So also by the removal of bond, students, with the hydroxyl group, this carbon gets a positive charge and hydroxyl group receives a negative charge. But from fatty acid, students, only hydrogen is removed in the form of H ion. So when H ion is removed, then this oxygen gets a negative charge. Why, students? Why? There is a reason for it, which is that when hydrogen removes in the form of H ion, then it donates its electrons to the oxygen. Students, by obtaining more electrons, this oxygen is become electron rich ion and gets a negative charge. Students, similar is with this hydroxyl group and hydrogen, and with this hydroxyl group and hydrogen also. So students, by the removal of 3 hydroxyl group and 3 hydrogens, we get 3 OH ions and 3 H ions. All of these 3 hydroxyl groups and 3 hydrogen ions combine to form 3 H2O molecules, and students, these 3 H2O molecules will be released outside. Why, students? Why 3 water molecules will be released out? Answer is that as 3 fatty acids reacted with, students, 1 glycerol molecule possessing 3 carbons with 3 hydroxyl groups. Every hydroxyl group of glycerol reacts with every last hydrogen of every fatty acid and finally release out 3 water molecules. Dear students, after the removal of 3 hydroxyl groups from here and 3 hydrogens from here, the remnant molecule is CH2, from here glycerol, CH and again CH2 from here from glycerol. Every these 3 carbons have positive charges, and from here R represents side chain, then C double bond O and O negative ion with negative charge. Remaining 2 fatty acids, students, are also alike. To these are C double bond O and O negative ion. Students, glycerol part has positive charge due to the removal of whole hydroxyl groups. But all of the 3 fatty acids have negative charges due to the removal of only 3 hydrogens. Now students, positive and negative charges combine with the help of a bond that is called an ester bond. Students, all these are ester bonds, but these are covalent bonds. Ester bonds are new bonds which are formed in between a glycerol and 3 fatty acids. 1, 2, 3. These are 3 ester bonds. So students, whole of this new compound which has formed is called a triglyceride. It is also called acylglycerol or triacylglycerol. That is a lipid, a very well known lipid. Because students, while studying lipids, first of all, this basic concept of triglyceride is essential to understand. Next, students, we start phospholipids class, that is related to triglyceride topic, a fat molecule. Because students, a phospholipid consists of a glycerol part along with these 3 fatty acid chains. How are students? Phospholipids have 2 fatty acid chains, but the third chain is replaced with the nitrogen containing groups. How? Let's see. Dear students, phospholipid is a very famous lipid present in a cell membrane, because in cell membrane a very special type of lipid, a very special type of fat is present, that is phospholipid, which plays very important role in the stability of a cell, in the maintenance of a cell, and performs very unique functions for the cells. Students, it is very essential for you to understand about phospholipids, as it will help you in your future pharmacology studies. So now it is your time, students, to understand phospholipid thoroughly, because without its knowledge you will face many problems at higher levels. So what is phospholipids? Let's see. Students, for understanding, the word phospholipid has two words, phospho and lipids. About lipids we have known, but now we shall learn about phospho. Students, this is our triglyceride, a lipid When this triglyceride is combined with a phosphate group, a new group, another group, a phosphate group, then we will get a new compound named as phosphatidic acid. Dear student, phosphate group is added in the form of H2PO4. How? Let's see. Students, this third fatty acid chain is removed and H2PO4 is added in this simple way. Dear students, in a phosphate group, phosphorus is present in the center. Double bond O here, O and O here. This is a phosphate group. Now we add, students, this phosphate group here. Phosphorus double bond O and O here. But students, if we remove negative ions and two hydrogens keep here, one here and second here, then phosphorus in the center, four oxygens and two hydrogens. That is a phosphate group. Students, now this structural form that was previously triglyceride now is phosphatidic acid. Students, phosphatidic acid is not the actual phospholipid but is an intermediate compound because soon we will add another compound in it. Which compound? Let's see. Answer is that nitrogen base. Students, nitrogenous base is such organic compound which has nitrogen, and at the nitrogen there will be present a lone pair of electrons, and it can donate this lone pair to another atom, namely it has basic property. So students, such compounds are nitrogenous bases. Students, we can also watch nitrogenous bases in DNA like adenine, guanine, thymine, cytosine and uracil. But that nitrogenous bases are different from this phospholipid nitrogenous base. So DNA nitrogenous base is different from lipid nitrogenous base. Students, for lipid, we use a well-known nitrogenous base whose of name is choline. That is a very famous lipid nitrogenous base. Another ethanolamine, students, is also a nitrogenous base. Another serine is also a common nitrogenous base for lipids. So students, there are a number of nitrogenous bases which we can add in phosphatidic acid to prepare our a phospholipid. Now students, out of these nitrogenous bases, if we take choline nitrogenous base and joins it with phosphatidic acid, then finally we will obtain a phospholipid. Let's see. Students, this is our phosphatidic acid. If we add a choline nitrogenous base here, then we will obtain a phospholipid. Students, the formula of choline is CH2 and positive charge CH3. Students, this CH3 will come 3 times. So we can write here 3 outside the bracket. Students, we can also write it as CH2 and positive charge CH3 and CH3 umbrella 3, that is also known by the name of umbrella 3. Students, we can also memorialize this choline formula as smaller and positive charge umbrella 3. Students, as CH2 has less hydrogens than CH3, so CH2 is named as smaller. So smaller and umbrella 3. As N has 4 bonds, so it is given a positive charge. CH3 is named as umbrella. Now we write smaller and umbrella 3. The formula of choline here at the place of nitrogenous base. Students, this compound was phospholipid, still is phospholipid, but by adding a specific nitrogenous base choline, now this compound receives a specific name, that is phosphodidyl choline, due to the addition of choline nitrogenous base. Students, this phosphatidyl choline is also known by the name of lecithin. So students, it is a phospholipid structure, that is a complex structure. But to simplify, students, we can also write it in a simple way. How? Let's see. Students, to simplify a phospholipid, we write a circle here and its two legs here are drawn. Students, this circle is called a head and these two legs are called tail. So this is head and this is a tail, which are written to represent a phospholipid molecule. Students, head contains phosphate group as phosphate group has a charge. So head region is polar because head region has also a charge. Next, students, as fatty acid chains are long chains which are long chained side chains and hydrocarbon chains. So these two long chains of hydrocarbons are shown by this tail. So these two legs are the R side chains of fatty acids. All number of carbons 4, 6, 12, 20 like are represented by this tail. Students, which has the carbon-carbon chain side chain portion of a phospholipid, whereas students head region has phosphate group with choline region. Head region is polar due to the presence of a charge, but students tail region is non-polar due to the presence of carbon-carbon long chains of fatty acids. As we have already known in the previous video lecture that lipids are non-polar, fats, fatty acids are also non-polar. So the tail region of a phospholipid is non-polar. Now students, there is a very important point that in a phospholipid the nature has been created a very special quality in the phospholipid, that a phospholipid can make a contact with the polar things from one side, but from the other side it can also make contact with the non-polar things, because for a cell it must has contact with the polar things as well as with the non-polar things. This is the reason that students phospholipids are present in the cell membrane of all the cells. How? Let's see. Suppose it is our cell's diagram. This outermost wall of the cell is cell membrane, which has many phospholipids, a large number of phospholipids. Students, every phospholipid has a head and a tail region. First, second, third, a large number of phospholipids also has a head and a tail region. Students, from here we can watch that the tail of both phospholipids are pointing towards one another face to face. Whole of the cell has many phospholipids arranged in the same manner. Students, this arrangement has a benefit. Which benefit? Let's see. In the inner side of the cell, there is water. At the outside of the cell, students, there is also water, H2O. So inner water makes a contact with the polar head. Outer water also makes contact with the polar head. Students, non-polar region is among the two layers of the cell membrane. Due to this arrangement, students, whole of the cell membrane is stable, remains stable. It does not dilate, it doesn't release, disengage its content outside of the cell, so that the inner content of the cell can't come outside. In this way, students, due to the presence of phospholipids, the protoplasm of the cell can't come out of the cell. So this arrangement of phospholipids, students, give us a fluid mosaic model which tells us that the cell membrane is not so hard like a rope, nor it is so dilate that it is outflowed. So this is a very unique property of the cell membrane due to the presence of the phospholipids. Students, its additional properties would be mentioned in the future. Students, last point about phospholipids is that polar phosphate and nitrogen containing groups are soluble in water, so are called hydrophilic, which means water loving. So head region is mostly present in water because head region is hydrophilic and water loving region, so it is present in water. But students, tail region is insoluble in water, so this non-polar region is called hydrophobic, which means water repellent. So tail region is present in water lacking region. So students, phospholipids have double tendency that they are soluble at the one end and insoluble at the other end. That's why they are major structural components of the cell membrane. Dear students, it was our topic, the classification of lipids, second part today, during which I have described the triglycerides and the phospholipids mainly. Next, students, in the third part, we will discuss about some other classes of lipids like waxes, steroids, sterols, and some others. Lastly, students, I want to advise you that take care of your parents, yourself, your surrounding environments, school, colleges, and universities, and everything of your country, and also my country, Pakistan. That is our beloved country. Lastly, many thanks for watching this your video.